Welcome back to the Convo Couch, everyone. Pasta Jardula is here.
And Fiorella is also here.
And Jonny Tsunami is here on the ones and twos.
We're all here.
We're all here. In the flesh. On the couch. For you guys. Thank you so much for the 22 people who have already jumped into the pool. The water is warm. On the Convo Couch, Rokfin. Thank you for Trey Wright, who comes out the gate swinging with the Super Ray. The love. Thank you so much. So
Trey
much.
with the Super Ray.
Always. Trey with the Super Ray. Always there. 26 people and climbing. We have about 68 watching on the YouTubes. Madly suppressed. Madly hidden. Gabriel Ramirez, we owe you a birthday dinner. I didn't even call you on your birthday. I'm such an asshole. You are fam. I love you.
He admits it.
We were in D.C. Everybody was like, oh, let's make sure we call Gabriel. We got to call fam. We didn't do it. I fucked up. I'm sorry. Let me make it up to you, man. You know your fam. Love you, Gabe. Thank you so much for joining on in. Thank you so much. Mocracy, fam. We got Mocracy in the house.
Gabriel, we got fams in the house.
Anthony's there. MF Doom, Mad Villain. How you doing?
MF
Love
Doom.
you. Frederick Murphy, of course. Keen James, thank you so much.
Hey,
Keen
Keen.
James having our back out there, man.
I know.
You know what I'm saying? Like somebody
Especially
was messing
with
with
all the
Sister Fee.
Karens.
Oh, I know, right? He was telling, who the hell are you, Karen, to tell Fiorella that she's not Peruvian now? You want to strip her of her identity because it doesn't fit well?
Oh, no, because they can attack that way. They can be like, oh, she's a racist, right-winger, Nazball. Ah.
Well, wait, they say you're white passing. Is that what they say?
No. They say I'm white.
Oh.
White, like you. I know you're 66% Southern Italian,
Thank
but
you.
you're still white. I'm sorry.
Thank you for making that correction. Oh God. Ghost's son Acid is there. Talk about vaccine passports. We're going to. Don't worry about it. Donnie Posner's there hanging out. Guys, there's almost 100 of you on the YouTubes. Do me a favor. Go over to that Rokfin, Rokfin. Sign up for free. If you got a few extra dollars you want to endorse for $9.99 a month, you can do so. That always helps us out. This is our new place, our new home, since YouTube has been censoring us left and right. And, it's just about the elites tracking us, wanting to keep us under their thumb, keep us in control, keep us good little soldiers. And now they have started in, I think, with the most scariest thing in the world. I'm going to be 48 years old a week from today, and I got my first passport, and now you're telling me it's not going to be okay unless I get the vaccine.
Exactly.
Oh.
Are we, isn't Kenneth that one? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. We're not going to have time to do this before he gets here. So let's just discuss a little bit before he comes on as to yesterday, because I told you guys while we were doing the live stream, I told you that somebody was going to come at us, right? And what these little Bernie sycophants do, these little bourgeois leftists, they take like a smidgen of something out of context, and then they smear you for it. They've done it to me with screenshots of whatever I said out of context. They do it to everybody. This is what they do. They sit online, people who don't even watch our show, clearly, who didn't watch the whole thing, sit there and hate watch us to clip shit up. And I know this because it happens to Jimmy Dore, it happens to the Gray Zone, it happens to anybody that's telling the truth, right? And they sit there and they clip this up, and then they're like, oh my God, how could these be leftists are agreeing with Brian Kemp and da-da-da-da-da-da. And in comes Benjamin Dixon today, just literally like addressing us all of a sudden. Benjamin TYT Dixon, bootlicking, deep-throating the Democratic Party, Ben Dixon, like that dude, and and other people who we used to be friends with, right? And it's crazy how they can't logically look at something because they're only looking at it emotionally. They're like reactionary. They call us reactionary. No, we're actually the people that are like, oh, let's read this and then have a discussion. Let's have a discussion on whatever this bill is before you call somebody a right winger or anti this or anti that or pro this or pro that. They can't do that because their emotions are like, oh my God, mainstream media told me that this is the new Jim Crow 2.0. Yeah. And they immediately react, and anything you say in the contrary, they don't even look at. They don't read the bill. They don't look at the evidence. They don't even watch the video. They're just convinced that somehow, because we say, hey, what the Democrats have said about this bill is a lie, and it's actually not as bad like they made it out to be. And they're like, you're a right winger. It's like they look at who the ideology of the person, or if they like them or not, and then decide if the truth falls in line with that. If like they don't look at the truth first.
Yeah.
So they have this like reaction like, ugh, this is how it is.
Yeah. Well, I think it's just kind of stupid the way they really just can't say what they mean and mean what they say. When did I call you a right winger? You were just questioning the fact that we were leftists. These people call themselves leftists.
They're not allies.
What are you implying? I mean, okay,
on.
I'm sorry. We need that. And then when we say, well, why don't you read the whole bill? You know what's going on here? You're just taking out a little snapshot, like you talked about it, presenting it as the whole truth and the only truth. Yet when we say, well, why don't you read the whole bill and take a look at it? I'm not going down your rabbit holes. So now going down a rabbit hole is actually just reading the whole bill,
right?
Understanding why they're putting the law into play.
Or half of it.
You know
I don't care. Read some of it.
Before any of it.
You can't have an argument with somebody who doesn't know what they're talking about, right? They're just attacking you. Yeah. So I just try to present some information. Again, like I said, I haven't had time, but because we're preparing for this protest, we're doing all these other things that we're doing that nobody even knows about, that goes on behind the scenes of what we do. Yeah. And it's like then you have to deal with these online trolls that are like, trying to like discredit you. But it's funny because it comes from all of the people who were okay with voting for Joe Biden.
Yeah.
Joe, I keep kids in cages, but I'm going to pretend it's better Biden. Yeah. Joe, I wrote the 1994 crime bill, wrote the Patriot Act, Biden.
Joe, okay. I pushed for Iraq war and, said there were weapons of mass destruction. Biden. Joe gave the thumbs up on the regime change in the Ukraine. Right. Biden. I mean, you can go down the list. Right. Every single issue, every single thing. Joe, I'm not going to end fracking. I never said that. Yes, you did on the campaign trail for the primary. Biden. I mean, it's the same thing. But the bothersome thing about this whole election issue, fam, is the fact is that the same progressives whose messiah, Bernie Sanders, the same tactics that were used against him are the same tactics they are still trying to allow to stay in place so they can continue to manipulate and cheat elections. Yeah. They're falling for it. They're actually getting goaded for it because they throw out, oh, that's the racist comment and stuff like that.
Right.
You're being racist. You're not. And they repeat terms like, it doesn't allow access. Well, what do you mean? That's just a vague fucking term.
All of a sudden.
Go into exactly why and what. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, when it comes to elections and when it comes to vaccines, they literally are like, oh, we have the most democratic elections, and yes, big pharma, let's embrace it. When it comes to these things, they don't question anything, right? And we're gonna go into that when we talk about the passports that Whitney Webb has literally been warning everybody about for a long time. Yeah. And so this is what they do. They're just reactionary. So it's best to almost not engage with them. But the one thing I did want to point out is if you're going to have an argument with someone, read the fucking bill. I don't care. If you have anything to say about what we said, you have to read the text. Because really quickly, you look like a complete idiot if you haven't. It's right there in the text. We're telling you that the media is able to do this, that Democrats were able to manipulate this because nobody reads freaking bills.
Yeah.
Not a single person.
But even the fact that we were showing examples of why they were putting this particular law in place. We showed Katie Porter working a line. Like, she shouldn't be able to do that. She's wearing an orange shirt. She's an elected official, and her slate is wearing the same orange shirts. They're giving out cupcakes. Right. They're actually bribing people and stuff like that. We showed an example of what happened with the bus coming in, and people were suspected of taking for coffee and donuts and stuff. This stuff happens all the time. They weren't suspected.
They did. They do. They do
it and stuff. I mean, obviously, we weren't there when they were having coffee and donuts. I don't have the footage, is what I'm saying.
Right.
But it happens all the time. They were trying to eliminate that law. But here's what I'm trying to say, too, fam, as well. The argument shouldn't be about the whole water and whatnot, and people can be there for a long time. The argument should be, why are they there so long in the first place?
Yeah.
Why are they so long there in the first place? We've been and this is something we actively try to go out there and fucking change and implement. We went to what's his name, the assistant to Dean Logan, Jeff
Klein.
Jeff Klein, and we're like, listen, dude, we're very concerned about the training going on. We know there was a lack of training last time. We want efficiency. We want people to be able to go through very fluidly and not wait on lines like crazy and stuff. How long are you training people for? How are they being trained? How can we make sure that we have aces in places? Like we said, when we walked in to East Los Angeles that night, people were working. They had these older people trying to operate the machines, the tabulations to get people signed in. They were struggling, and they were having the young people actually try to answer questions about what was going on. I had no clue. I'm like, this is bad management. Why don't you switch these people right here? That kid is a young kid. It's a possibility.
Yeah.
He was born with an iPad in his hands. He's going to know what's going on. I certainly go to Johnny when I have questions about how to use electronics. I'm an older guy. He's a younger guy. You know what I'm saying? We didn't have computers when I was in school back in the dinosaur age, when I took the Brontosaurus to high school. But you know what I'm saying? It's like all these things are very important, and that's the part when I've always said what I would like to do. Coming from a restaurant background, being a corporate manager, I'd like to run some of these polling places, the whole training involved, to make sure it's mellifluous. To make sure it's very sweet flowing and that people get in and out. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. But I mean, really, to tell you the truth, that's what we want. We want it to be easy, not just accessible, but easy. Everybody's like, oh, we're providing more accesses, but they're jamming up purposely the means of getting in there and getting out there. We saw. And it's not just people of color. We saw a lot of white people waiting on long, long lines for pizza. You know what I'm saying? While they were getting pizza. That should never happen.
A lot of young people specifically because, and we were on the ground. We were talking to the Bernie staff. I was shown direct messages of how while we had tried to warn the Bernie campaign and while a lot of people in the Bernie campaign who were the organizers and the just like the lower level staff were trying to warn the higher ups, hey, we're going to have a lot of issues here, this is not going well. When it came time, they ignored it, and the day of, they were like, oh my God, we need to have all of you over there. And people like our friend Melissa were the ones that were organizing. Okay, we got to move these people to another location because they're never going to be able to vote if we don't move them. And so they organized their own transportation system because it was so bad. And people having to deliver pizzas twice because people were there for 8 hours is not. It's no, I'm sorry. That should never happen. You shouldn't have to deliver a fucking pizza to somebody while they're waiting in line because they shouldn't be waiting in line that long. Yeah. That's what we pointed out too later on in the video. Right? Like, and people are like, well, yeah, but it's like, no, it's not just voter suppression. If you're going to look at the whole election spectrum, voter suppression is one part of it. Then you have to look at the machines. Then you have to look at the chain of custody. Then you have to look at all these other things. And people don't understand anything about elections. All they see are like Republicans, they cheat. And then Democrats only cheat against progressives. No, both parties cheat depending on who where it's most convenient, and it's like a mafia. It's like you have your districts and your routes, and it depends on who's the Secretary of State and who's in charge and all of these things that happen. And it's really frustrating to even have a conversation with somebody attacking you on this because it's like you literally don't know what you're talking about. This is a topic that you can just bullshit your way out of it. Like, you have to know what you're talking about.
Yeah, it's hearing leftist independent media people saying, "Oh, that's a racist bill. What's going out?" Just kind of echoing what Craig Pallas says. It's just kind of sad at certain times. You know what I'm saying? We've never said that suppression doesn't exist. It does.
Absolutely.
But it's one small piece of the puzzle.
Right.
Fiorella has talked about election revolution where we have to start it from scratch, and I kind of agree. But, I'm saying we've had a friend on the show before, Clinton Curtis, who said, well, I think we should implement a law that says for every hour a person has to wait longer than 1 hour, each additional hour, the county has to give them $100. They'll speed up that election process really quick. And that might not be possible, but it should get the wheels turning. And the way you're thinking, like, what? Yeah. Why is this taking so long? What is going on?
Because they want to disenfranchise voters in every way, and they do it via voter suppression, via long lines, bad machines, closing polling stations, but also now, especially after COVID, and like the desire for people to make it easier for them to vote, and just like eventually people are going to want to vote online. Well, if you're going to do that, guys, why do you think we don't vote online? Well, because somebody can hack. Yes, it's the same thing with vote by mail. Like, why do you think people in other countries don't vote by mail or do that? Because it's just easy to hack. It's easy to manipulate elections that way. Yeah. So that's why. It's not about, I'm trying to keep people from voting. It's about the fact that you have to give people the right and the facility to vote, but you also have to put security. If you only do one and not the other on either end, then it's bad because you disenfranchise people both ways. Whether you put too much control on something and you require ridiculous ID laws that push people out, and you have all this security, but then people don't want to vote because it's too difficult, or whether it's so easy to vote
Yeah.
But then there's so much manipulation and rigging going on and fraud. And again, people they confuse voter fraud and election fraud. We have never ever advocated voter fraud. We always talk about election fraud. And whenever I talk to a Republican or whenever there's a Republican out there saying voter fraud, we're like, you guys are fucking idiots. You need to say election fraud because
we don't
voter
say you're
fraud
idiots.
is that.
We explain to them nicely.
Well, yeah, no, but
I mean,
but it is idiotic at that point. Like to continue saying like voter fraud, like you have to it's not individual people to think that individual people are going to risk I think it's a felony to do something like that. It doesn't make any sense.
It's just rare occasions, very, very tiny occasions. It is election fraud is the proper terminology.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we did when we were in D.C. not months ago. We educated some people. Right now, I say, well, do me a favor. Let's not say voter fraud. Let's call it for what it is. It's election fraud. A wholly different thing. Voter fraud is individuals trying to tip a scale.
And I've seen leftists use that term too. The voter fraud isn't real. It's like, yeah, I know. You're right. It's not. That's why we always say election fraud because that's two completely different things. And you can't say that's not real because that's been a thing forever. Yeah.
But I also want to, stack on the fact that it's about absentee ballots where the protections are coming into play. It's not actual showing up in ballot. And once again, I'm cool if you show up and there's a database, and if you don't have an ID, if you had a bill to your house and stuff like that, I'm lax for when you show up at a polling place to vote. That's not where the issue is coming into play. The issue is coming in with the absentee ballots, the mail-in ballots. And once again, Jimmy Carter said, along with James Baker in a bipartisan commission years ago, that the area most susceptible to election fraud is through the mail-in process. And especially if you're removing away any forms of identification numbers whatsoever. And that's what they did. Secretaries of states, along with registrars, changed the laws illegally, eliminating those particular types of checks and balances, meaning you have to put your driver's license number on there or the last four of your social security number.
So you're saying that was a thing before?
Yeah. During the COVID, they removed it a lot.
And they removed a lot of it.
A lot of those things. So they're actually technically going back to what they were before in a lot of cases and whatnot.
Right.
They are amping up certain things, but they're also trying to say, okay, well, the attack is going to come saying, Stacey Abrams is out there saying 200,000 eligible voters in Georgia don't have the right IDs. Okay, well, let's provide other avenues where they can go through the Secretary of State's website, or if they don't have their driver's license, maybe they can put the last four of their social security versus the date of birth.
Yeah.
It's the back and forth that they're trying to appease each side. But any way you look at it, we need these protections in place. You know what I'm saying?
We need something. I mean, like I said, they wouldn't need to put in their social security or their license if we made a bill that was like, okay, we're gonna track this. That would be a better bill, 100%. Like that would be something I would do, right? Republicans easily go to, let's find a way to ID them via these license or a social security. For me, it'd be like, okay, well, why don't we track the ballots instead? Yeah. Why don't we make it, not go on? That would be a better option for me, and I would be more comfortable saying, that this is a better way of doing it. But again, reiterating the fact, it is simply writing your license number or writing your social security number. Things you have to do sometimes when you go to the doctor. Things you have to do when you apply for whatever, unemployment. These are things that most people have to do anyway. Yeah. So again, if it's a specific circumstance where somebody is unhoused, where somebody is older, I think there can be leniency on that. And there could be okay, well, let's see how we can help you out. But they're painting it out like this is the new Jim Crow 2.0, and that's simply an exaggeration. It's completely just misinformation. That's misinformation. That's not the case. And also, it was funny. Somebody commented, this black gentleman commented and said, the fact that people are saying this is the new Jim Crow, to me as a black man, is offensive, because the real Jim Crow that my people experienced was actually horrible. And to compare that to this is actually insulting. And it is, because it is nowhere near that.
And I also want to point out that the Convo Couch, all of us here will all agree that this bill doesn't even tackle the main mechanisms of fraud going on in elections, and that is the proprietary software, the tabulation machines. A lot of people say that, why did Governor Kemp sign this? I can't imagine Governor Kemp signing this into law unless it would give him an advantage, because he still knows he can have the vendors in his pocket. We need to talk about the vendors who make the ballots, the vendors who count the tabulation, who write the software for the tabulation machines. Those are the things that are very, very serious and the issues that need to be addressed. If Kemp is good with the vendor, he can always trick the vendor or pay off the vendor to get the tabulations he wants. And a lot of times, like, and that's the thing, people in that bill, I would like to have seen that it has to be always a paper trail no matter what. They were talking about it, but they still look like they have loopholes for where they can have those direct recording machines in certain counties. They have to eliminate that across the board. In other words, there has to be a paper ballot for backup and stuff like that. But that is also, too, taking it out of the Secretary of State's hand, putting it into the legislating, making them have a nonpartisan guy who's not a candidate.
That's a big one.
That's a big one. That's going to lead to more audits, more checks and balances, and that's what we need. Hey, if you're so sure, Democrats, that you won this last election, then just show us your homework. Give us the proper audits. Let us properly look at these ballots. Let's properly look at everything. So, it is. What's that? We're going to go to a quick commercial. We'll come right on back. Welcome back, everybody. We're here with our guest. This guest in 2016 ran as a Democrat, was endorsed by Bernie Sanders, but then in 2018, he reappeared wearing green. It was actually the Convo Couch as one of our first gigs, as we were going to moderate a debate between Kenneth Mejia, our next guest, and Jimmy Gomez. But guess what, ladies and gentlemen? Jimmy Gomez didn't show up. So we had a great conversation. It was one of Johnny's first gigs when he joined the Convo Couch. It was a fun time. Kenneth stood on up, answered some great questions. He's here with us today. He's a Green running for a nonpartisan position. That is LA Controller. Kenneth Mejia is here. How you doing, ladies and gentlemen?
How you doing, Kenneth?
Doing good. Hey, everybody. Thank you, Convo Couch, for having me. I really appreciate you all doing that last time too, like 3 years ago. That was fun.
Yeah, right. It's crazy that it's been 3 years and we're still in this situation. Things have gotten worse, Kenneth. Things have gotten worse in a lot of ways in terms of Los Angeles, in terms of our area that we live in. Homelessness is crazy right now. We have a rental crisis, a homeless crisis. We have a pandemic. Whatever people think of the pandemic, it's still an economic pandemic. It's still, affecting us. So, did you want to start, or did you?
Well, no. I mean, I can start off. I mean, it's kind of funny. Also, the last time we did see Kenneth out and about, because he is an activist, was a protest in front of Mitch O'Farrell. Not for the Echo Park stuff, but a couple years ago, he was there, and Kenneth, being a housing activist, was there. And on his website, he puts down that together will be holding power accountable. Can you give us a little meaning to what that is?
Yeah, so not a lot of people know about what the city controller is, or what they do, or what he does or she does. The city controller is the elected chief accounting officer, the auditor, and also the paymaster of the city. And so besides being in charge of all the city's finances and making sure everything's accounted for, we're also making sure that we hold, elected officials accountable for the financial decisions that they make, putting it out there, letting people know that this is what we approve, this is what we're spending our money on. We're also in charge of making sure that city departments are operating effectively or efficiently. There are departments that we can audit, like the LAPD, for example, or whatnot. And so that's really what we mean. And our motto as holding power accountable means to us is holding those in power accountable, because as controller, you're independent and you're also an oversight role over the city.
Okay, so if you actually got elected, and we have seen Greens and other people like Shama Sawant get elected to city council in positions that are nonpartisan. but they face a lot of challenges. If you got elected, what would be your largest obstacle right now?
Yeah, I'd say if we got elected, I think with going in with our progressive values and our centered actions based on human rights and whatnot, I think we would probably face pushback from city council or from the mayor. If the same people are elected, right, the same establishment politicians, definitely I could see that being a pushback against what we'd want to do and trying to sort of find information, audit city departments, see like where wasteful spending is being made, make recommendations, because the city controller right now, we have no policy power making position. So we're not like a politician. We're not your typical lawmaker.
Right.
We're just there to provide support, to provide oversight, and to handle the city's finances. But we can give recommendations. And so the city controller has the power to give recommendations, but we haven't really seen a lot of these recommendations that the controller has given, especially, for example, like Prop HHH, right? That's a big one where taxpayers in 2016 voted to approve a $1 billion bond to build permanent supportive housing units, 10,000 units, right, for our unhoused population. And the controller has given suggestions and recommendations on trying to shift the money, because right now it's taking like up to 6 years to build one unit, and it costs over $550,000 to build one unit of permanent supportive housing. And it's not that we're like against it, it's just that there are faster and immediate ways that you can get permanent supportive housing, like converting old vacant hotels, motels, or apartments or whatnot into housing for these people. So that's what we can do. We can find the problems, we could put it out on blast, and then we can give recommendations. And so the only pushback would be if anyone actually does something about it, right? So.
Well, what other recommendations would you make for LA to spend some of that money, some of its tax dollars? Well, you talked about housing there, but Medicare for all, infrastructure, and also what areas would you say that LA needs to stop spending its tax dollars on?
Yeah, I mean, if you look at our budget, a lot of our tax dollars goes to certain departments. The most basically goes to the LAPD. Over 50% of our unrestricted revenues, and unrestricted revenues are basically funds that the city can use for anything, right? And over 50% of that goes to the LAPD, close to $3 billion. And if you sort of look at that, you sort of have to figure out, well, as controller, you have to think about performance measurements, successes, like, are we safe? Do we feel safe, or is LA getting better if we give all this money to the LAPD? And then you also have to look at things like housing and homelessness, right? Are those areas improving? And then you start to think from a financial standpoint, well, if I give $3 billion to the LAPD and I give close to $150 million to our housing department, and if I only give $400 million to solving homelessness, then it just doesn't add up. And that's sort of what we want to do, is that these budgets, which is going to actually be released in 13 days, by the way, so make sure you all put that on your calendar. We're going to see what the budget's going to be. These budgets reflect the city's priorities, and if we just keep putting money towards things like the LAPD and not enough on housing or solving homelessness or on infrastructure or on transportation, for example, you're going to see a lot of LA not performing like up to what it could be, right? When I talk to people about like look at what the LAPD has. They have the best equipment. They have all the helicopters. They have the best everything.
Yeah.
Then I say, like, look at housing, or like look at us solving homelessness. And it's because there's not enough resources. There's not enough attention going to it, and a lot of it's being diverted to things like the police department. So that's one area we definitely want to go into. We'd want to audit definitely the LAPD as one of our big things to see if our tax dollars are being used efficient.
Yeah, I mean, the LAPD recently has been extremely aggressive on not just protesters, but journalists, specifically either denying them the press credentials or also arresting some members of the press and several protesters. You saw what happened at Echo Park. Now, another community, I think near MacArthur Park, is also at risk. What is your plan to deal with the opposition between the LAPD and the unhoused population that's ever growing? Beside funding, what can you do as a candidate to say involve the communities to push for change?
Yeah, I think we definitely have to do like an education effort, right? We have to pinpoint what are some of the main reasons why people end up living on the streets: housing affordability, healthcare. And I think if we put a spotlight on those type of issues and sort of pinpoint as to how our elected officials haven't treated those root causes, right? Then I think you'd have a better and a mutual understanding between, people and how they view our unhoused neighbors, right? Because at Echo Park, for example, and even on MacArthur Park, if you go on this app called Next Door, you're gonna see a lot of people just like talking a lot of bad stuff about our unhoused neighbors, and they'll call 911, they'll call the police on them. And it's just this always constant like ongoing of fighting, right? But I think I think definitely if we could pinpoint what are the root causes, why it's not being treated, and pinpoint it to like our elected officials who maintain the system, then I think there could be better support and understanding, right, to actually get our unhoused neighbors to to get housing, to get services, and that they're not there just because they just want to live there, right? And I think with that, you then have to think about the police aspect of this too, and the criminalizing factor of that is that people unfortunately view our unhoused residents less than, and I think that's like a huge problem, and the way the city tries to sweep it under the rug is to do these secret sweeps that no one knows about. And luckily there are amazing organizations like Street Watch, or if it's not sweeps, who are always putting it out there, Keystone for All. And so I think if we could put that education factor and let people know, like, this is why people end up on the street, this is where our resources are going, where the funding is going, I think that could be definitely a better understanding, and hopefully a better solution, right? To get people housed and getting the services they need.
In 2016, you ran as a Democrat. In 2018, you ran as a Green. Tell us a little bit about why you made that jump to the Green Party, and why specifically you chose to move away from the Democratic Party.
Yeah, so in 2016, in LA, I think a Democratic Party is the liberal and progressive party to be in, like in the terms of the majority, right? And then Bernie ran for office, and then that was great. Like he put a light on a lot of the bad deals or hypocrisies on the party, and that opened a lot of people's eyes, and I wanted to be part of a party that represented my my values back then, and so I saw the Greens, and then they had that those values and platform that I like. So
all right, well, tell us a little more about your activism, because we've seen you out in the streets, and we've seen you talk about what happened at Echo Park. We've seen you talk about housing and homelessness. What drove you to where you are today, and why? Because you ran for Congress before, if I'm not mistaken, and so why specifically do you think you can do so much in this position?
Yeah. So the controller is a very powerful position, and me personally, I've been doing auditing and accounting for 11 years. So, and this is the role of the controller, and I think if you combine that with someone who has progressive values, who centers the most vulnerable or human rights and whatnot, I think you would make a good combination, right? Like what we've been doing is over the past 2.5 months since we launched is we've been educating like Angelinos about the city's finances. We've been doing a lot of classes on, how to use Excel, how to look up City of LA financial information. We taught people how to help their unhoused neighbors file a Form 1040 tax return. And, I think, being grounded and always helping people, you can use your privilege and your knowledge of like finance and accounting to actually make, change. And that's what we hope to do as city controller is, even though we don't have policy making powers, we can put information out there to the public who can then lobby their city council members or their mayor with the numbers that we give them. Right. And that's really where the power lies. And I think if you have a progressive city controller who puts numbers out there like radically, like always on Facebook, on Instagram, on Twitter, on email, on newsletters, just like bombasting, like putting a billboard and be like, do you know we spent $3 billion on the LAPD, 400 million on homelessness? It's like city controller, Kenneth Mejia. It's like we would definitely be thinking outside the box and using our privilege and power because we're on the same level as the mayor and the attorney. Like we have a lot of power, and it's just using it for good and in a way that no one has ever seen. And we hope to do that as city controller.
Raw numbers, statistics don't lie. Raw numbers.
Yeah.
And being a CPA running for controller, how would you grade the 2 relief bills signed during the COVID? I mean, I believe the HEROES Act, or was it the CARES Act, was over 800 and something odd pages. So give us your gradings on that.
I definitely, my biggest thing is I wish that they would give people more money for the checks and the relief bills. I know there are a lot of, I was reading online that there are hundreds of millions of dollars going to other countries and whatnot. And it just, and then the rich were also getting like subsidized as well. And while people would get like a measly, $1,200 or $800 like in the past 10 months. Right. And so, I feel like the United States could do a lot better. They could give people, $2,000 a month, $1,000 a month if they wanted to, like they campaigned on, right? And I wish that they stuck with it, and because a lot of people are hurting, a lot of people in Los Angeles need that money, and even it's not even perfect because people haven't even got their stimulus checks yet. Like we're helping people who get Social Security and they haven't even got their checks yet, so we're helping them filling out a 1040, right? So I think, I think that the bills definitely should center more on getting money directly into the pockets of the people and with as much or as less barriers as possible. So,
yeah. A lot of people have, don't want to be in the Democratic Party, but at the same time, the third parties are really disorganized, whether it's the Green Party or whether it's any other party. They don't have the power yet, especially in the system, to get people elected. Would you say it's important to focus on party structures, or would you say it's more important to just focus on the issues and run at like an issue-based campaign?
Yeah, I always, to be honest, like I started off, very partisan, but I think as you develop more and more of your politics and your activism and whatnot, you realize the issues are where it's at, right? And that's one of the big reasons why we were running in this nonpartisan race, because it's not as polarizing, right? But we have unique opportunities to to talk about issues, and for some, like a party identity could ruin everything because of that. And so, I mean, for me, I've definitely grown, especially to just focus more on issue-based activism and also, elections and whatnot. Yeah.
We saw you, you were actually one of the hosts for the Green Party convention last time. And a lot of people have been questioning the leadership within the Green Party, and very confused about what's going on. when you were introducing Jill Stein, though, you had a big smile on your face and whatnot. What is the state of the Green Party right now, and what can they do to better their chances in the elections to come? Because a lot of people seem to be split on where the leadership is going, and actually, who is the leader of the Green Party?
I mean, I don't know. I'm not heavily involved. I think the Greens they're decentralized, and the local parties and whatnot are usually where a lot of the work happens and stuff. That's what I know in terms of like leadership and whatnot. It's usually at the people at the level of where we are, like on the streets and whatnot.
Yeah.
That's all I have.
What are some Greens doing locally right now that you can direct us to?
They're like Greens in like Pittsburgh doing big things online. I always see them on Twitter talking about the work that they're doing, building and local efforts and getting on the ballot and whatnot. Here in LA, like a lot of Greens are part of many activist organizations. So I think that's like where the strength lies is doing the work. And then when people ask you like, oh, what are you? And then they're like, oh, I had no idea. And that usually works out like the best, right? Is let your actions speak for themselves. So here, like LA, people are working on housing justice, disability rights, helping our unhoused neighbors and whatnot, like not under like the banner of Green, because then you look like you're co-opting stuff, and that's not good. You don't want to be like co-opting any organizations doing the work, but people do the work like in their organizations in their communities, and that usually shines a light when people find out like, oh, they're Green or something.
Cool.
Is there anybody right now that's in city council or is a controller in any particular city or state that you could point to and say, hey, like I want to do what they're doing?
Like a controller
or any position that is like a local level position, like a city council or mayor or anything like that.
Yeah, I mean there are some
Okay.
good, cool people. Manny in Baldwin Park, he's a Green, and he's a Green who got elected as mayor in LA County. I don't know if you know who Emmanuel Estrada is.
What's his name?
No.
Emmanuel Estrada.
Okay.
Yeah, he got elected here in Baldwin Park. He was only 26 when he got elected.
I think I vaguely remember somebody getting elected. Yeah, but so it's possible. Why do you think so many people don't pay attention to positions like controller or city council as much? Because like we've always seen, a lot of people run for Congress. Why is it like good to actually run for something so local?
I think I'm a good example of that. I think that the Bernie like craze brought a lot of people in, and national politics is polarizing, and it makes headlines, and it's fun to talk about.
Right.
And you get a lot of likes, and I don't know, on Facebook I was like killing. I was getting like thousands of likes, and now that I'm talking about local politics, no one cares. But I think it's just what's on nationally. People like that. They see what's on the news all the time, and they're like, oh, Trump, oh, Biden, and oh, COVID, oh, and they're like, this is polarizing stuff. But really, like a lot of the power and a lot of the issues that we care about is on the local level, right? And I think that also comes with just doing a lot of work as an activist in housing and whatnot. So like housing is done at the local level, homelessness is done at the local level, right? Transportation is done at like the local level, and I think that's really where you get to know your community members more at that sort of local level, and that's sort of why I think national gets a lot of more headlines or attention than local does. And so but it just takes education. I think since we launched, we've been putting out a lot of city information out there, which gets so much outrage and so much like attention, and it goes viral, and people are like, oh my god, I'm gonna start paying attention now to local elections, or I'm gonna volunteer, and that's sort of what we're trying to do. We're trying to make accounting and numbers and transparency fun and exciting, and let people know that like they have the power to change that locally, right?
Yeah.
Because nationally it's very hard. I mean, you see Congress, you see even the Dems have a majority over everything, and they can't get a lot passed. But here in 2022, we're hoping that we flip LA City Council, the mayor. Well, I don't know who's running for mayor, but yeah, definitely the local levels doesn't get enough attention.
You think global, you act local. Jonny, what do you got? That's it. Hey, so Kenneth Mejia running for LA Controller. He's trying to hold these budget czars accountable. I think it's a great position that you're running for. I mean, a lot of people, all they do understand is dollars and cents. And if they can see the waste, the way we're just throwing away money, they're going to say, wait a second, things need to change. Tell us where we can find you.
Yeah, so you can find me at mejiaforcontroller.com, MEJIAFOR controller.com. And you can sign up, you can volunteer. If you live in Los Angeles, your donations get multiplied 6 times because we have matching funds here, which is awesome. And so, yeah, feel free to check me out there.
All right. Thank you, Kenneth, so much for coming on.
Yeah.
We'll see you later. Best of luck. See you on the streets. Yeah, we'll be out there as well.
Thank you.
Later, Ken. Good luck, buddy.
Okay. Well, yeah, I mean, numbers matter. Especially when you're arguing with conservatives. No, it's true. Like, like for emotions, the liberals always go on emotions. When it comes to numerical data, they're
dollars and cents.
That's where the conservative comes in. Yep. It's like, okay, that is true. I mean, I never think about positions like this either. I definitely like looking at what Melissa does at her local level and looking at what people like Shama do at a local level. You start realizing like so much can happen at the local level if you know how to weaponize it and use it. And like you said, think local or think global, act local is a way. You also have to be a very detailed oriented, though, an organized person to run for these positions in city council or controller, because it's a lot of tedious work that an organizer would likely be able to do better than somebody that thinks more of a big picture level. Like I've always said, like, I'm not running for office, but if I would be better at something like Congress and something like city council, whereas I think like people that are like, but Melissa are really good at like doing like the
I would want to be a local mayor. I would really want to do that.
Yeah, you kiss babies like and shit and go to restaurants. Yeah, I hate
I'd like to be close to the community and do those things. But here's the thing that would be awesome if Kenneth could get this position, because he's tied into the activists on the streets.
Yeah.
So literally he comes up with numbers, not just putting on Twitter and Facebook. It's something that's really important that we need to get out there. He'll go to the activists. We'll raise money. We'll get a billboard out there. Yeah. We'll get that shit out there where we will expose these people who are wasting your dollars and cents that could be going to things that we need. Like he said, look at the police department, the LA Police Department. They get $3 billion almost, I think he was saying. And yet the same amount of money is split up with all the other needs of LA alone. And yet they have the best helicopters, the best pepper spray, the best guns, the best rubber bullets, the best shields. They get all that stuff, you know what I'm saying? And the whole thing is that you're not spending money on homeless, the homeless situation. It's a crime to be homeless here. Poverty has been criminalized. So therefore it just feeds the one side rather than to getting the good balance that we actually need out there. So I hope he would get this position because, like I said, tied into activism, tied into the activists on the streets, the dollars and cents will open some eyes, fams. Like you said, those conservatives out there, they'll be like, holy cow, we're spending this much money there. Something has to change. So
exactly.
Really quick, some super race for those people out there. Trey Wright, who was the first to come in there. Then chassis cakes. Vaccination status will be attached to facial recognition.
Yep.
No passports required. Oh my God, that's scary.
It's not science fiction. She's right. We're gonna go over that.
Rob McMurtry, thank you so much for the Super Ray contribution. It is always appreciated on the couch. Green Winter says, with deep respect to your work on election integrity, unhoused, Julian Assange, and more. Sorry I can't tip more, but poverty. From Harold White. Harold White, thank you so much.
Don't apologize. Thank you.
That you gave that love right there, that means everything to us. You guys don't even know how much it means to us. We are so appreciative and humbled that you guys help us out because we are people powered, not corporation powered. Charlie Marks gave a super chat twice. Charlie Marks marks the spot twice. Thank you. Samuel Stafford, also a super ray. And holla. Gotta holla at my holla. What's up, Holla Ismail? Good to see you today. Thank you so much for that generous Super Ray contribution. It is always appreciated on the couch. So Daryl Burton jumped in here, says, hello, my people. Saw Fiorella tweet to Dixon. Good job. Say what you will about Georgia laws, but it's not Jim Crow. Peace from Brooklyn, Black Vet in Baltimore. That's a new follower. That's a new watcher. We love you, Daryl Burton. You've been awesome. Thank you for jumping on.
Did you make a comment, by the way? Because I was talking about somebody making a comment, and I don't know if it was you or not. But yeah, screw Benjamin Dixon. Okay, so we go from like local stuff to like national stuff to like international stuff. We do it all here. It's kind of crazy how much we do. Like, patting you on the back.
Thank you.
I'm patting me on the back.
Patting us. Patting Johnny.
And Johnny.
Virtual pat on Johnny's back over there. And stuff.
Okay, so let's get down to the nitty gritty here, the science fiction coming to life, because if I recall, Whitney Webb, Slow News Day, The Last American Vagabond,
who will be on tomorrow.
Jason Burmas, all of them are talking about vaccine passports, and all of them got smeared in some point or another as conspiracy theorists. Demonetized, said they were spreading fake news about COVID, right? And it turned out, of course, months later, that all these people were right. All these people who were saying vaccine passports are going to be a thing, well, guess what? They are going to be a thing.
Passports are a thing.
So Jen Psaki, the White House,
correspondent.
She's the chief correspondent. They ruled out the involvement of the White House in vaccine passports, but there's a big but in that, right? Because the reality is that the White House would defer to private companies, kind of like AOC defers to caucus leadership. They would defer to private companies when it comes to implementing any type of vaccine passport system. And the individuals, you, me, everybody else, would have to provide proof that they received one or more of the coronavirus shots. So this is how they wash their hands off of everything. They say, well, we're not going to enforce anything, but individual states can and private companies can. So if you want to fly, let's say via JetBlue, and JetBlue's like, nope, we're going to require a passport, then or a vaccine passport, then you're going to have to do it. And then if all the airlines start doing it, then guess what? It pretty much is as if the government is doing it. Now let's hear her actual statement on this subject.
One on vaccine again. Is there any thought being given to a federally organized vaccine passport of some kind? Does the president see that maybe as some kind of tool that could be used, or would he lean more on the side of people who have raised objections over privacy and so on?
Well, let me be very clear on this. I know there's been lots of questions. The government is not now, nor will we be supporting a system that requires Americans to carry a credential. There will be no federal vaccinations database and no federal mandate requiring everyone to obtain a single vaccination credential. As these tools are being considered by the private and nonprofit sectors, our interest is very simple from the federal government, which is Americans' privacy and rights should be protected, and so that these systems are not used against people unfairly. There is a movement, as you know, in the private sector to identify ways that they can return to events where there are large swaths of people safely in soccer stadiums or theaters. And that's something that that's where the idea originated, and we expect that's where it will be concluded. We will be providing some guidance, which will look like an FAQ, a frequently asked question. I hate acronyms, but that provides important answers to questions that Americans have, in particular around concerns about privacy, security, or discrimination soon. I don't have an exact date for that yet.
Okay, and if I might.
Okay,
that's
the press secretary saying. Okay, so
right.
I want to read Steve's tweet, and then we can talk about this. Slow News Day. Yes, please.
We spent a lot of time talking with our friend Whitney Webb about how the U.S. government will hold up private companies as a shield. That was more Crow. As a shield to deflect from the forced medical treatment and medical coercion. The public-private partnerships they extol are the dictionary definition of fascism.
Right. So, again.
As a shield, duping the people.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I don't understand how that could be a law. I mean, obviously, the definition of fascism is when the corporations merge with the state, and the federal government said, we're not going to do it, but they're allowing the corporations to do
So-
that. How can the corporations force you to get a vaccine to ride on their plane?
Right. Like,
Hello?
okay, so this wouldn't apply if we weren't already living in a government where the corporations are directly merged with the state, especially big tech, especially big pharma, merging together in this crazy science fiction type of world. Like, that's what already exists before COVID. So of course, how easy it is for them to say, well, we're not gonna do it, but the entities that have merged with us are gonna do it. And it's just a private company. It's the same thing with big tech and the government, like Twitter, for instance, and the government. Like, it's the same thing when somebody's like, oh, Fiorella, it's a private company, Twitter. No, like, they are merging with the government. They are working in tandem together to censor people. This is the same way that these said companies and big pharma are all working with the government to enforce a vaccine passport without actually saying that they're doing it, which makes it even worse because they're going, they're being duplicitous. Yeah. It's disgusting.
By the way, I started thinking like, okay, well, I got my passport, so now I can't fly. Maybe I could take a boat. I'm assuming they'll get the cruise lines too as well.
Right.
To say,
that's what Niko was saying.
Just take a
Niko's
boat.
like, how about we create our own cruise line that doesn't require vaccine?
Well, you know what? They'll get other states to comply. If we want to go to a state that's friendly with the West, like if I want to go to Italy, they'll get them to comply somehow, whatnot. They're going to try to force this down everybody's throat. And by every single step of the way, every point, anything you look at, it shouldn't be mandatory. It should be a personal choice whether to get that vaccine or not. Bottom line.
Yeah. So one last thing I want to point out before we go to the next video is vaccines used to be mandatory. People keep sharing an article, well, vaccines used to be mandatory. No, for people coming in and emigrating from like Ellis Island and needing to get the shots. That's not the same thing. That was back then when you had things like polio. You had like things that could kill people in ridiculous amounts.
Yeah.
COVID is it's a coronavirus. It is similar to SARS. You don't need a mandatory vaccine for that. I'm sorry, you don't. This is like a violation of so many rights if the way they're doing this, right? But they're doing it, of course, in a very cryptic way, which is the nature of this system, very cryptic. So let's look at what Kyle Kashov's tweet, where CDC, they're talking about CDC vaccinations and traveling. Look at what this person says to our friend here, Chris Cuomo on CNN.
Fredo Cuomo, huh?
A ticket back to pre-pandemic life. And the window to do that is really narrowing. I mean, you were mentioning, Chris, about how all these states are reopening. They're reopening at 100%. And we have a very narrow window to tie reopening policy to vaccination status. Because otherwise, if everything is reopened, then what's the carrot going to be? How are we going to incentivize people to actually get the vaccine? So that's why I think the CDC and the Biden administration needs to come out a lot bolder and say, if you're vaccinated, you can do all these things. Here are all these freedoms that you have. Because otherwise, people are going to go out and enjoy these freedoms anyway. It's clear to them that the vaccine...
People are going to go out and enjoy the freedom they're supposed to have. Yeah. So that's not allowed anymore. Now you have to take a vaccine. How are you going to get people to take the vaccine if you open up? No. You have to find ways. You gotta incentivize them and say, ooh, you can only go to a bar and you can only eat at a restaurant if you take the vaccine. Otherwise, no, you don't get these freedoms that we just decided to take away from you. Guys, that is freaking scary. That is freaking scary. Like, I don't know if you're understanding here how freaking scary this is, that somebody gets on CNN and it raises some sort of alarmist exaggeration as to why you need a vaccine and then ties it to what every single person wants to do that has been literally hauled inside, hasn't been able to go out. People who have been extremely strict are like dying to go out and have socialization with people, like, and they're using that against you. They're weaponizing that desire against you. It's really, really freaking gross.
Yeah, and a lot of this could have been avoided too as well if we were allowed to have open conversations about the vaccine, and not so much the vaccine, but about the coronavirus from the get-go. If we were to open up the doors and stop suppressing voices who had dissenting voices, who had different opinions, then we wouldn't be at this stage. Right now, you have thrusted, that being the elites, the mainstream media, you have thrusted distrust upon people because you censored people and you didn't let them talk about things. We never allowed to talk about ivermectin or what they're doing over in Peru or these other countries or what's going on in Nicaragua and other treatments and stuff. It was like, no, you have to listen to this. Anything else is disinformation. Go this way, go this way, go this way. It's a really fascist mentality, and it's really scary where we're at right now because some of us don't want to really take the vaccine until we know what's what.
Exactly. Well, there's a lot of issues with the vaccines too. Okay, so there's this thread that was started with I want to point out the pros, the people who are for the vaccine and are not via state. So the U.S. passport, vaccine passport update. So the yeses are New York, they're already active. Illinois, they're in development. Hawaii in development. Do you have it up, Johnny? Okay. And no, Florida is the strongest ban. They said, no. Ron DeSantis came out and said, no, this is a violation of people's freedoms, etc. Texas, limited to government agencies. So only government agencies can demand this. Missouri, no, there's no specific on that already. And that's what I wanted to point out of that, so you guys have an idea. Then I have a little bit of information on the IBM and New York State rollout Excelsior vaccine passport apps.
This is on the Yonkers Times.
So this one is talking about how pretty much the passport is the vaccine proof that you've been vaccinated or have had a COVID test, etc. is going to be run by a merger of IBM with an app, which is scary. Okay, so the New York State and IBM announced on March 26th the launch of Excelsior Pass, a free voluntary platform which utilizes proven secure technology to confirm an individual's recent negative PCR or an antigen test result or proof of vaccination to help fast track the reopening of businesses and event venues in accordance with New York State Department and Health guidelines. Similar to a mobile airline boarding pass, individuals will be able to either print out their pass or store it in their smartphones using the Excelsior Pass wallet app. Each pass will have a secure QR code which participating businesses and venues can scan using a companion app to verify proof of COVID-19 negative test results or proof of vaccination. An individual's data is kept secure and confidential at all times. No, it is not. No, it is not, guys.
Let Big Brother keep a hold of it. Let us watch out for you, pal.
No, it is not, guys. It is not. It is not. And then, New Yorkers can choose whether to use it to verify their vaccination or negative test results right now. But this is needed to gain entry to stadiums, to several restaurants, wedding receptions, catered events, social gatherings. So individual businesses can also use this too. And major venues already announced that they're going to be using this technology. Madison Square Garden, everything. So of course people are going to comply because people want to go out to these places, right? And Andrew Cuomo said that New Yorkers have proven they can follow public health guidelines to beat back COVID. And the innovative Excelsior Pass is another tool in our new toolbox to fight the virus while allowing more sectors of the economy to reopen safely and keeping personal information secure. The question of public health or the economy has always been a false choice. The answer must be both. As more New Yorkers get vaccinated each day and as key public health metrics continue to regularly reach their lowest rates in months, the first in the nation Excelsior Pass heralds the next step in our thoughtful science-based reopening. So there you go. There's Cuomo. And that's all I'm going to say about that because that's, this is crazy.
Yeah.
Right?
It's scary. It's 1984. Everything's coming back. It's terrible. It really, this is everything I feared. You know what I'm saying? A lot of people, once again, we've talked about, should it be personal choice? Should it be mandatory and stuff like that? And really what's also sad is the leftists or the progressives cheering it on, getting their pictures on Instagram and putting it up and whatnot.
I see one more video
like that. Yeah.
Since when has it been really Instagram cool to film a video of somebody putting a needle in you.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sorry. Like, what? Why is that all of a sudden? Why do we all of a sudden love Big Pharma as the left? I thought the left questioned
Hated it.
the
Yeah.
status
I mean,
quo.
look who's giving out
Hated
these
Big
things.
Pharma.
Yeah.
Hated all the, and it's not. I have never been an anti-vaxxer. So the knee-jerk reaction is to say, "Oh, you're all anti-vaxxer." No, I'm okay with. I say some vaccines are okay. Like, some vaccines are necessary even.
Yes.
This is not.
Yeah.
This is not necessary. That's my point.
You're a certified TV doctor. You know as well as anybody. Doesn't a vaccination process take a long time to test before it's ready?
Yeah.
And wasn't this thing just kind of poofed out of nowhere? I mean, I know our guest tomorrow is going to be able to give us a little insight to it, The Last American Vagabond, when he comes on. But, I mean, fam, we've talked about the way they rushed this, and the people issuing out the vaccinations have killed people all around the globe. You know what I'm saying? I'm not going to trust Johnson & Johnson. I'm not going to trust AstraZeneca. I'm not going to trust any of these companies, Big Pharma, you know what I'm saying? Because all they have to do is they pay a little price, a little money they have to dole out, you know, when they get caught or they do something wrong. But it's nothing in comparison to the profits they're making off this whole thing.
That's the thing. And here's the thing. If you want to take the vaccine, take the vaccine. If you feel like you're a vulnerable person, take the vaccine. I'm not even saying that. I'm saying it shouldn't be mandatory.
Exactly.
That's all I'm saying. It should be your choice to see whether you want it or not. Because if you take the vaccine, you're supposed to be more protected. Now, you can still take the vaccine and get sick, by the way. You can still take it and get COVID. If anything happens to you, it is in their freaking little fine print that you cannot sue them. That's scary.
Terrible. That's bullshit.
That is scary.
That's bullshit.
That you cannot sue
them.
people
Yes.
who are So Hawaii is
Why
another
do they
one.
always get the protections?
No, because
Big Pharma.
they're freaking in charge. So Hawaii is another one that's developed a digital vaccine passport. It's all digital, guys, and it's digital for a reason, right? We're gonna get into that. So if they're gonna come to and from the state, they have to get this vaccine, and this is, of course, to overcome COVID, despite the GOP privacy pushback, because the GOP, it's just like with big tech and stuff. Why are the conservatives the ones pushing back? And that in turn makes these neo-progressive boutique leftists be like, well, you're a Republican now, because no, it has nothing to do. I don't care if a Republican says it, a Democrat, a libertarian, a green, a socialist, a communist. I don't give a shit who says it. Like, the stance is the same, because this is scary. So they're looking to develop this vaccine passport, and the lieutenant government Josh Green said it could be in the form of an app, right, that would allow passengers to present the QR code, etc. So in the same form, in the same way, that's how they're looking to build this up. And again, this is scary as well. And those are the things I want to point out. That's in America, right? But we're not the only ones dealing with the vaccine, fam.
Okay.
The UK has had massive protests, not only against lockdowns, not only against the brutality of police recently, but also against the vaccine passports that are being pushed out. People over there are more aware of these things that have been happening. And unfortunately, as we know with what happened with Jeremy Corbyn, the Labour Party in the UK will likely probably end up, according to The Guardian, supporting the vaccine passports. The Labour Party, which was supposed to be the progressive party, you know, let's say it's like the DSA type of party. Now it's like basically a DSA. It was supposed to be like an actual, you know, labor workers people's movement party. Well, now it's like, it's saying we're going to support the vaccine, and it's passports. And it's crazy, because it's one thing to say, okay, well, we support taking the vaccine. Now you're taking it to the next level. It's like, no, we're going to demand you take a passport for any transportation, because if you go through anything, even if you go from take the Channel from the UK to France, you're going to need a passport. You're going to need, yes. And a lot of MPs criticize this, right? A lot of the MPs said that the coronavirus passports are extremely divisive. Well, the BBC pointed out a couple things here, because the Baroness Chuck Robarti warned that the passport risks creating a checkpoint Britain. More than 70 of the MPs railed against their use in England. Jeremy Corbyn, who is in the Labour Party, and the senior Tory, Ian Duncan Smith, are among a broad coalition who pledged their opposition. but no final decision has been made. They're doing a COVID passport trials, and they plan to use these on different venues. The same thing that's happening here. They're doing these trials as well. But it's interesting that Jeremy Corbyn is one of the few people in the Labour Party that stands against this. I want to point that out. He is standing with with our equivalent to a Republican, a Tory, right? And saying no to this. That goes to show you guys, this isn't a partisan issue, because a lot of people will make this a partisan issue. They'll say, oh, Republicans don't want vaccines. Republicans don't want the vaccine passport. And, like Democrats, we're leftists. If you're a leftist, you're in favor of this. You just want to protect everybody around you. It's not about your civil liberties. It's about the health and safety and protection, right? It becomes that argument.
What they say.
But no, the left is supposed to be in opposition to this. The real left is supposed to be in opposition to this.
You are with that term again, fam. Real leftists. We got called out.
No, but I'm just saying, like, it should be shouldn't be a partisan issue.
I know.
But now that it is, it's like, you're supposed to question, like, the government, especially a government backed by Big Pharma, which Big Pharma has so much power in so many countries, and so many powerful countries of the West, especially. Yeah. And it's not a right-wing talking point to question this. And even if it was, it's a nonpartisan issue to begin with.
Yeah, well, I mean, I understand the ideology from the left, a lot of progressives, and when they say, this is a deadly disease, we're all in this together, it's about public health, working together, whatnot. But my beef with the whole situation is how they're trusting Big Pharma, and these people who are making these decisions. And, they suppressed a lot of conversations about this whole topic from the get-go, how they can just easily trust these same people that they were railing against for so many years, the same people who have now jacked up the insulin prices again and are killing people left and right. The people who lobby against medical marijuana, who lobby against just sensible reforms and stuff like that, and have had, I mean, you're a Medicare for all person, right? Who are you fighting at the end of the day when it comes from Medicare for all? You're fighting Big Pharma. Mm-hmm. Now you're just going to trust them, and then you're going to trust them so much you're going to go take a picture with it. They're putting it in me. And they put the lights on and stuff. I mean, seriously, ladies and gentlemen, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, you're not going to fool me again, right? I mean, shame on me. I mean, this is shame on you for how many times over here? These are the same people you've been fighting tooth and nail for Medicare for all, which was your number one issue. You're now trusting those people. You're saying, okay, Fox, I trust you in the hen house. Do what you want to do.
Yeah, well, that's the mental gymnastics that goes on with trusting mainstream media, with trusting Big Pharma all of a sudden. Also, we'll get into it, but it's like, oh, my body, my choice. Well, where'd that go?
Yeah, exactly. And the fact that they suppressed conversation about COVID really should have brought up a lot of alarms and said, like, in a second, I'm not going to trust these people because they're trying to silence other voices. But fam, bad behavior is rewarded online. And that's the problem. So we have to shut these people up.
The COVID idiots still want to wear their masks.
COVID idiots. So. Yeah, I mean, really, to tell you the truth, and a lot of people should be looking at Texas. Since Texas has opened up, right, their numbers are actually dropping. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Their COVID deaths are absolutely dropping. Their infected COVID rates are dropping. Their deaths are dropping. Fauci was on TV the other day trying to explain. He says, well, it's a little low, and eventually you'll see the spike. Well, I mean, there's a lot of questions, a lot of things we have to answer and stuff like that. We talk about Nicaragua. Nicaragua did not have a lockdown in place. They said, if you want to close down, you close down. The government will help you out. If you want to wear masks, wear masks. We're not going to make it mandatory. Well, their numbers were so low. We have to talk about their treatments, what they're using, what's going on. But see, that's what Big Pharma is suppressing. They don't want you to know other treatments outside their fucking game of the vaccine that's being used. We've talked about ivermectin. You know what I'm saying?
They want you to rely on them.
They want you to rely on them. Big Brother wants to be able to take care of you.
And you're right, naming Big Brother, because that's exactly what's happening. So Whitney Webb said, given that the vaccine passport push is now beyond obvious, I recommend reading my article from January to know where this is all heading if we allow this policy to advance. Merging vaccine records with biometric digital identity and economic activity. Guys, that is scary. So let's go into her article a little bit. It's a really great article.
It's like on your phone scanning. It's like you have a digital leash.
It's just like what is it? Like a plane ticket, like that you can put in your phone. It's very, very similar to that. So she talks about.
I saw that on Minority Report, by the way. Go ahead.
She talks about Silicon Valley and WEF-backed foundation announced global initiative for COVID-19 vaccine records. This is from January. So she said Silicon Valley's most influential companies, alongside healthcare companies, U.S. intelligence contractors, and the Commons Project Foundation, recently launched the Vaccination Credential Initiative. The initiative's ambitions reach far beyond vaccines and will have major implications for civil liberties. There's a word, fam. I don't know if you know this, but you're a civil liberties guy.
Is a civil liberties guy.
Okay, so the VCI aims to help people to get encrypted digital copies of their immunization records stored in a digital wallet of their choice. The current system of vaccination records does not support convenient access of sharing verifiable vaccine records. So that's why they're all using this. This is what we went over. They're doing in New York. They're doing in Hawaii. They're doing all over the UK. So on its website, it states that the VCI is this company that is committed to empowering individuals with digital vaccination records so they can protect and improve their health, etc. So it's talking about people going back to their work, going back to their normalcy, and of course, like we said, they're going to use these wallets. So They listed on their website, their goals are to empower individuals by having access to the information, making it easier for them to comply and understand what's going on and comply with the requirements, etc. And to make it easier for travel to happen without any sort of, whatever. That's what they say on their website, okay? But the issue is these companies are completely tied to big tech. These companies are completely tied to big pharma, and they're merging in this, like I've talked about before, and she's talked about before, where we have this marriage of big tech with the government. Well, we have a marriage now of big tech, the government, and big pharma. And that is something that is potentially catastrophic, especially when you take in the way this is going to be tied in and mined for using people's data and mining people's data. Whether they say that it's going to be secure, it's not likely to be secure. So just to give you guys a little bit of of what she keeps talking about, they're gonna start having wearable IDs for your health and your wallet. So there's an overlap between digital vaccine records and the initiatives that were promoted by Common Pass and BCI, and the push for this new global digital system. It's all part of the plan. This is all part of what she was talking about before, where we're going to merge a lot of this sort of like new kind of what it's like transhumanism in a way, where you start merging like the computers with people. And this isn't anything like that. She's exaggerating. This is all completely true. And it's going to be intended to use for more than what it's being advertised, right? She says, for instance, if you go to the bottom where there's a picture of all these things right here, Johnny. Yeah, right there.
The companies there?
Yeah. She writes, while advertised as digital vaccination records, smart health cards are clearly intended to be used for much more. For instance, public information on the framework notes that smart health cards are building blocks that can be used to across healthcare, including managing a complete immunization record that goes far beyond COVID-19 vaccines, sharing data with public health agencies, and communication with healthcare providers. It will not be limited to healthcare information. In his presentation, he notes the application of smart health cards could soon be used as IDs for commercial activity, such as renting a car. The VCI framework's use of the term digital wallet to refer to its digital vaccination record is also suggestive of future connectivity to economic activity. Efforts to link digital identity not to just economic activity, but also to health data have recently escalated. For example, the piloting of Gavi, the Vaccine Alliance, aka Gavi MasterCard Trust Stamp Partnership in Africa, that program first launched in 2018, links Trump's Trust Stamp's digital identity platform with the Gavi MasterCard Wellness Pass, a digital vaccine record, and MasterCard's click-to-pay system run on AI technology called New Data. They are both partnered with the ID 2020 Alliance, which includes VCI member Microsoft. So you have companies like Microsoft, you have companies like Google, and the Microsoft recently filed this patent that would allow human body activity, including your brain waves, body heat, to mine, i.e. generate cryptocurrency. So this would, of course, link biometrics to your financial activity, among other things. Isn't that?
You start talking about the transhumanism too as well.
Yeah,
Our good friend Jeffrey Epstein, was practicing transhumanism in his New Mexico ranch over there, where the Clintons visited on a regular basis.
You mentioned Epstein. He's connected to this too. His friends are entirely involved in this.
Of course, he funded a lot of the science that goes behind that, a lot of the AI studies. Transhumanism is the merger of AI, people with machines, and that's what it is, and that's where it starts out, and it gets really, really scary right now.
So she starts talking about, if you scroll down, that this is basically sponsored by spooks in Silicon Valley. As we've suspected, of course, obviously big tech and their spooks are going to be entirely involved. They're always going to be involved, okay? So, for instance, she says on the second paragraph, in 2013, Google Genomics was founded with the goal of storing and analyzing DNA data on Google Cloud servers. Now known as the Cloud Life Sciences, the Google subsidiary has since developed AI algorithms that can build your genome sequence and identify all the mutations that an individual inherits from their parents.
That's crazy.
Fam, right here, the next paragraph, this is where you fucked up. Sorry, fam. Google also has close ties with the best-known DNA testing companies in the United States, such as Ancestry.com.
Oh, no.
Ancestry, recently purchased by private equity behemoth Blackstone, shares data with secretive Google subsidiary that uses genomic data to develop lifespan-extending therapies. In addition, the wife of Google co-founder Sergey Brin, Anne Wojcicki, is the co-founder and CEO of DNA testing company 23andMe. Wojcicki is also the sister of the CEO of Google-owned YouTube, Susan Wojcicki.
That's it. They're gonna make a computerized AI pasta somewhere. You know what I'm saying? They're using my ancestry DNA. This
is why Steve was telling you. Pasta did you use Ancestry.com or 23andMe?
Ancestry.com.
Okay, well, at least you use Blackstone, but the wife is involved with fucking 23andMe.
Yeah, but I'm also on Clear, too, like an idiot.
Do you see? I mean, Susan Wojcicki's sister is the 23andMe, like, oh my God,
it's all
guys.
A family of elitist oligarchs running this fucking planet, and we're like, you got a bunch of people going, sure, I'll do that for you. I mean, I was done with the Ancestry.com. I just wanted to find my third cousins in Italy, fam. So when I go there, I can visit them and say, hey, I'm your third cousin from America. And
it's okay, fam, because before I knew any of this, they never gave me my DNA back.
Well, they have it, though. It's sitting there.
This is scary.
They're building biological. Johnny, did it got you somehow?
I don't know.
They got Johnny's DNA somewhere. Forget about it. They're gonna have an AI Convo Couch somewhere. What's that?
Shut up, Johnny. Okay, so the majority of these VCI backers, are Microsoft, Salesforce, Cerner, Epic, the Mayo Clinic, the MITRE Corporation, Change Healthcare. They're also members of this COVID-19 Healthcare Coalition. Other members include CIA's and In-Q-Tel and the CIA-linked data mining firm Palantir, as well as, of course, other companies. This is, of course, the mission of Google and other companies to pretty much to gain access to your data and continue to mine your data, etc. So
it's literally the Matrix. They're going to be hooking us up to machines to get us the power, the whole grid for the elites.
So pretty much, guys, this is scary, and I just wanted to point out specifically those things that spooks are involved, Google's involved, big tech's involved, Susan Wojcicki's sister, is involved. I mean, this is like Blackstone. I mean, it's like the worst people you can think. The people that we hate, the corporations that we always progressives rail against.
Give me the shot.
Oh yeah, here you go.
Put it on Instagram.
Like this is how stupid people are, and it's crazy because they're going to continue doing this. And also, of course, I just want to mention a couple of other things. Here we are.
Close associate to Jeffrey Epstein.
Alongside Benioff on the council are well-known figures such as Lynn Forrester de Rothschild, close associate of Jeffrey Epstein and the Clintons, Mark Carney, UN Special Envoy for Climate Action and former governor of Bank of England, and William Lauder, executive chairman of Estee Lauder, nephew of Mega Group member Ronald Lauder, as well as the top executives of MasterCard, Visa, DuPont, Merck, Johnson & Johnson, BP, and Bank of America. Also present are the heads of the Ford and Rockefeller foundations, and
these little groups, they just seem how to end up together. Remember the voting the voting thing when we talked about the Time Life magazine with Zuckerberg and all the elites got in one room and toasted and broke bread and stuff. But yeah,
and this is of course also it's just want to point out that they have a deep involvement with also Carl Schwab and the Great Reset. So I recommend, if you haven't read Whitney Webb's article, she goes down, the rabbit hole, as you know, to connecting all these people and all these companies and their coalition that they secretly build to pretty much data mine you, to pretty much merge big tech with big pharma with economic the bankers, and of course these genetics companies that are collecting the DNA, like and like 23andMe and Ancestry.com via Blackstone, and of course via these just like Google as well. Like, it's all one big disgusting psychopathic family, and basically the point is to have this transhumanism where you are connected to computers and everything you do is watched. This is its science fiction. This is the beginning with the vaccine passports of what they're doing and how they're accessing all of your information. You are no longer just this human. You are just a plethora of data that is being mined, and you have become cryptocurrency. That's the dark side of that.
We said it too as well, and it's kind of genius when you think about it.
It is evil genius.
This COVID situation to be like, oh my God, here's a deadly disease where your actions will depend on the health of other person's actions. So therefore, you're put into a corner, you're put in a box. Well, I got to go along and play along. I don't want to. It's not just about me. It's about my friends. It's about my family and stuff like that. And I don't want to put them in harm's way. So yeah, sure, let's shoot me up. Whatever you say is the best for me. From the same people you've been railing against for quite some time when it comes to Medicare for all, whether it be the banks, they're all there. All the big wigs have a seat at the table when this, and they all have a say. They're all going to profit off you. You are now the product.
So, Emma, right? I have this tweet from Emma, hashtag free Julian Assange. She says, are you freaking kidding me? She says, the Pfizer BioNTech vaccine is said to be powerfully protective in adolescents. A clinical trial found no symptomatic infections among vaccinated children ages 12 to 15, the company said, and there were no serious side effects. The data has not yet been reviewed. Okay, so again, they're encouraging people that, yes, this is good. There's no side effects on children, but they also haven't reviewed the freaking data
by independent experts.
They haven't done this, and it hasn't been verified by no one. And this is Pfizer. Are you kidding me? They get to not verify anything. And she says, I've seen so many tweets and articles about this come across my social media feeds. The Pfizer vaccine has 100% efficacy in adolescents. Wow, amazing. Says Pfizer, and verified by no one. Meanwhile,
we should listen to Pfizer, fam. Go
exactly.
ahead.
Meanwhile, giant studies have been done and published in journals, but because there was no peer review, people are like, if you believe that study, you don't trust science. But they sure are quick to publish and share what amounts to an ad from the pharmaceutical company. That's what you guys have to realize. These things are ads for the pharmaceutical companies. That's like publishing and sharing a story in which the police say 100% of the time their level of force use is not influenced by race or socioeconomic status or neighborhood, according to the police. I mean, according to them. I mean, these are things that you have to logically think about. You cannot just be like hyper partisan on this just because a bunch of conservatives are against the vaccine. I don't care who's against it. I'm talking about questioning, having that ability to question. And that has been taken away by the same forces censoring you on COVID, censoring any dissent on it, censoring any talk against the vaccines or any questioning, not even against, but like a questioning of the process, are the same freaking people that are in charge of creating this vaccine passport and that profit of you using it. You have to understand those connections. You can't just pretend they're not there and live in this alternate reality where this is a conspiracy theory, because it obviously isn't. This is coming to life.
People who are standing by the LA banking thing, the public banking thing too as well, they were getting involved to crush Bank of America and Chase and all these other people. Well, Bank of America and Chase are at the table for this situation, so you should be railing against them too as well. Same people you're fighting with are the same people who are pushing this. So
okay, so Sky Daddy said, liberals turned my body, my choice into my body, society's choice real quick. Okay, like, how can you then she goes, leftists too, apparently. I had no idea y'all was so down with medical tyranny. Okay. And and then she has this other tweet. And she says, fuck everyone on the left who supports vaccine passports. Fuck everyone on the right who supports vaccine passports. Fuck every centrist who supports vaccine passports. If you support medical tyranny, kindly suck my metaphorical balls.
Wow. She's awesome. She's got some great tweets.
I know she does. She's awesome.
Go out and follow her, ladies and gentlemen. She's got some awesome tweets.
And I believe that is it for that section. And guys, like, I just want to point out, this isn't, now you can see this is blatantly obvious. This is where we're headed. This is like a combined with what was going on in Davos with the Great Reset and how they're talking about this new age and this new, guys, you don't know what the side effects are going to be. I'm not saying you're going to, die if you take the vaccine. I don't think it's as simple as that. I am saying though that there are very powerful people, very powerful, horrible people that the left or the anti-imperialist or whatever you want to call yourself are always against, and all of a sudden these people are in charge of vaccines and vaccine passports, and there is no questioning allowed because big tech and the media have made it impossible for you to question. They literally bring channels down from YouTube, and now you understand why Susan Wojcicki, whose sister is tied to this shit, right? It is actually against you talking about COVID on YouTube. You talking about any questioning of COVID on YouTube. Why? Though you can't ignore that. Her sister is literally involved in this. Yeah. I'm so sorry. That is scary, and everybody should be 100% up in arms about this. But no, they're going to take this video. Yeah. And they're going to say, I told you, they're right-wingers. They're talking against vaccines. They're making up conspiracy theories about vaccines.
It's their sister. Hunter Biden is his son. He's not Joe. They've already prepped everybody for this, fam. It's too late.
But my father, who had a job as a computer programmer, now means that Lockheed Martin funds the Convo Couch. No. So, these people are fucking hypocrites. They're assholes.
They've always been hypocrites.
I have, I'm just so done with their shit. Me questioning something is what I'm supposed to do. I this is the media. We're supposed to be the oversight. We're supposed to be the controller. We're supposed to demand accountability from what is being put out there. That doesn't exist because the mainstream media is parroting the same talking points of big tech and big pharma. And none of you are questioning that. None of you are saying, hey, there might be something up with all of these connections happening behind the scenes. Hey, we might want to talk about this shit instead of talking about, I don't know, Caitlyn Jenner or some shit that people are talking about.
Governor.
I don't give a shit about that. What the hell, guys?
I know who I'd support for governor. Ice Cube. Johnny, anything else on vaccines? B?
No.
All right, so that was a great subject over there. We're going to talk a little bit more tomorrow with the last American Vagabond. I'm sure he's going to have some opinions about that. I can't wait to have him on the show. He always talks a lot of censorship. One of the greatest shows out there. He got completely not only demonetized, he got his channel taken down.
Yeah.
Why? For talking about alternative
we know why.
Things, issues and whatnot, and solutions, whatnot. You can't do that. It's either Big Brother's way or no way. So let me read some Super Rays, and then we'll get to Johnny's Instagram section coming up. It looks very interesting. Daryl Burton says, yes to Fiorella. That was me. You replied to on the Dixon tweet. Brooklyn black vet in Baltimore. Y'all don't know me. I'm famous. LOL. Actually been watching you and Niko since you had the courage to call out AOC on her BS when no one else would. Yeah, we did it a long time ago.
Thank you.
Because we saw the writing on the wall, and I got to give credit to Anya Parampel, who kind of called out when she gave the cold shoulder to Max Blumenthal and said, I'll defer to the caucus leadership. That was the beginning of the end. We're like, well, let's take a look over here.
So, he's the one that made that comment about how it's comparing Jim Crow, the real Jim Crow, to that. It's insulting. It's ridiculous. It really
should be insulting.
And thank you for your comment, because I agree. I see it that way too. I hate it when people exaggerate a situation. It diminishes when something really bad actually happened or happens. Yeah. And thank you. I appreciate you and support.
The whole problem with that argument from a lot of people coming at us is that they play team sports, fam. We don't play team sports. Jim Garrison said, Big Brother is watching you and has been for some time. Thank you, Jim Garrison. That is so true as well. Trey Wright says, I can't believe I'm saying this, but I'm kind of happy I live in Florida for once.
I know, Trey. I I was like, I hate Florida. I don't know.
Look what Hala says. Hala, back at it again. Hi, Hala. She says, I never thought I'd say, without irony, I'm glad I live in Florida. Hala, I know what you're saying. My mother says that all the time now. She's like, I don't know how you live out there. Glad to be living in Florida. In a lot of ways, it's like crazy that we're saying that.
Yeah.
Rob B, which is Rob Base. It takes two to make a thing go right. Thank you very much for the Convo Couch for the rate tip. It's always appreciated on the couch. Same with Mercy Me. It's always appreciated on the couch. Thank you, Brandon James, as well. It is always appreciated on the couch. And no two-tier society, no vaccine passports.
Yeah.
Well, that's coming right
Right.
now as well as like that, because if you want to avoid it and stuff, you don't want to have the vaccine, what airlines are going to allow you to fly? The airlines that are going to be 3 times the price without a vaccine passport, so that's what they do. So the upper society doesn't get tagged and bagged. Daryl Burton, the sentence, makes it easier to comply, is scary by itself. Makes it easier to comply. Just comply. Just comply. Eddie Villegas, thank you so much for the super rate contribution. Always appreciate on the couch. 70 people watching on the Rokfin and about 280, almost 300 watching on the YouTubes with mad suppression. Johnny, let's get to some Insta-Grizzy. What do you got?
So y'all remember we interviewed Jafari from BLM757. Here's his page on Instagram. And apparently he said that Virginia Beach Vice Mayor James Wood came into the council meeting wearing a Blue Lives Matter mask on.
Virginia Beach Vice Mayor, he actually came in here in a Blue Lives Matter mask. So that kind of tells you what's going on in the city of Virginia Beach. Y'all didn't see y'all's Vice Mayor had on the Blue Lives Matter mask? So, in case y'all see the mask he puts back on. Shut up.
So basically, I don't know if you've been we talked about it before. In Virginia Beach, there was multiple person shooting by the Virginia Police Department over there.
Oh yeah.
So this is the first city council meeting following the police-involved shooting at the oceanfront, where citizens actually get to have their voices heard. So that's that. So I just wanted to show that.
You had showed a video, Johnny, the way Jafari's post, the way he was marching with a bullhorn, and the Virginia police just surrounded him and started taking him down for no reason. They just tackled him to the ground because they didn't like what he had to say.
So here's my thing on that. I don't care what you do outside or what your ideology is outside of work. But if you're coming into a place of government and you're wearing something that shows that you are I'm sorry, that shouldn't be allowed. I'm not trying to infringe upon your ideology, but if you're a government official and you're showing your bias, that's wrong.
That's wrong. So,
on vegan-related news,
4
shocking facts about fish farms. I didn't know this until I saw this, guys.
Yeah, there's a couple new documentaries out about
There's
this.
a new documentary out. It's called Seaspiracy. Apparently it's on Netflix, so
yeah.
I don't know. But
the show was on today, Johnny. She was telling me about it.
Let's watch a little bit of this, and this is some new info that I had no idea about.
What comes to mind? Maybe a fisherman casting his line out to sea to get a day's catch. Or what about trawlers hauling fish out of the oceans with their large nets? What you probably don't think about is this: a fish farm. This is plant-based news, and here's 4 shocking things you really need to know about fish farming. Number 1. Most people have idealistic images of fishing, but more than half of all fish consumed globally actually come from underwater factory farms. Tuna, salmon, carp, sea bass, catfish, and cod are all just a few of the species that are farmed within the confines of these facilities. There are billions of animals in intensive fish farms at any given time. Number 2. These farming systems are designed with economics in mind, rather than the needs of animals, and can lead to dire consequences. Most farmed fish are reared in what can essentially be considered low welfare conditions. Salmon, which are on average 75 centimeters long, can be given the equivalent of just a bathtub of water each. Overcrowded fish are more susceptible to disease and suffering and stress, aggression and physical injuries such as fin damage. Along with a lack of oxygen, overcrowding can often lead to poor water quality, so fish have less oxygen to breathe. Good animal welfare depends on taking care of 3 important components: physical well-being, mental well-being, and natural living. In intensive fish farms, all 3 of these are neglected as fish are kept in overcrowded and barren conditions, and often subject to stressful handling procedures and inhumane slaughter methods. Number 3. With such a huge number of animals in these highly confined pens, these farms will obviously produce a lot of waste, be that from uneaten food, feces, or animals that have died. These products are generally flushed out of the pens and can result in dangerous contamination of the surrounding environment. Waste is not the only thing that can leak out. Due to the fish's intensive environment, buildups of disease and infections can occur, and this will need treatment. Pesticides and drugs can also leak out. Fish farms can also be breeding grounds for parasites, including sea lice, which if left uncontrolled, can again leak out and have a devastating effect on the wild animal populations surrounding the farms. Number 4. This leads to the effect on us as humans and our health. Most wild fish are already victims of environmental pollution and suffer from varying degrees of contamination. Being stuck out in the ocean alongside the wild populations, these same pollution issues can also affect fish inside these giant farms. Mix this with all the antibiotics, drugs and waste we mentioned before, and we're starting to already brew a dangerous concoction. Research has also shown that one of the biggest sources of toxic exposure is actually from the fish's pellet feed. These pellets are actually made from waste fish and human edible fish that is often stored in bad conditions, where they rot and pathogens start to thrive. They can also contain a number of drugs and chemicals that are fed directly to the farmed fish. A shocking example of this is the Norway farmed salmon, which is now considered one of the most toxic foods in the world. Do you really want to be putting that into your body? So with all that being said, what can we do about this problem? Maybe it's time to rethink fish and leave them off our plate for good.
Fam, I had a question today given to me from the person who was telling me about this documentary. She says, I don't get it. And she's from Canada. She goes, how is AOC the queen of the Green New Deal and she's not even a vegan? I said, I don't even know how she's the queen of the Green New Deal and she doesn't know shit about foreign policy, creating all the killing, you know what I'm saying? Wow. It's just something to think about too. And this is, when we became vegans, Jackson told us, right, Johnny? One of the biggest kind of genocides of animals happens within our oceans. And I didn't even know that the farm fish outrage was like this. That's like on a whole new, I haven't seen pictures I've never seen before. That's on a whole new level.
I never saw that. That's really like
you want to miss sushi? Well, watch that video and you won't miss sushi.
Yeah, seriously.
No, yeah, it's really surprising. I never really liked fish because it tasted too oceany to me.
We love sushi. I mean, sushi was my thing. I love sake and clean sushi.
Way too oceany and gross to me.
So. All right. It's bad. So I agree with you, Johnny. You were right the whole time. Johnny's always right.
Okay, so on a lighter note, this thing was hilarious. I saw
the deer.
Deer crashes through school bus window, lands on sleeping student. I was trying to sleep, dog, is what the student who bore the brunt of the deer impact can be heard saying. So just watch this.
He just keeps driving.
How does did the car crash into the deer?
No, deers are known for doing that. They start running, they don't stop.
Are they suicidal?
No, it's just he probably didn't. He just thought he could jump, didn't realize it was a window and stuff. There have been instances where deers have been just showed up at crazy places. I always tell the story that of a horse race in Australia where we had a horse going down the backstretch in the lead, and all of a sudden a deer come running out of the woods and boom hit the horse. Unfortunately, a lot of people were injured in that one, but deers have been known to do stuff like that when they start running into moose. Moose do these things. Deers, elk. In Milwaukee, during the playoff game, the Milwaukee Bucks were playing. A deer jumped through the window in a sports bar, then ran out. So it happens.
Aw,
Poor deer.
No, Steve, we will not eat deer mid-frolic.
That's
okay?
it. We're not doing it, Steve.
Poor deer. Okay, that's it.
All right, guys. So once again, let's show the protests that's happening. We also have the panel, but the protest will be on Sunday, April 11th, noon Pacific. We are going to start at CBS in Columbia Square. It's going to be 6121 Sunset Boulevard, and then we're going to march to CNN and, demand Julian Assange be freed, demand Julian Assange be released and completely vindicated from all charges. We're also going to demand that MSNBC, CNN, all these people, where the hell are our checks? Fuck censorship. These people are propagandists. They're paid stenographers. They are not journalists. And so that's what we're going to be talking about, because when they don't show you the reality, right? Just like with COVID, when they are allowed to skew the narrative, when they are allowed to not talk about healthcare, when they are allowed to manipulate as PR agents for politicians, when they are allowed to just lie blatantly about conspiracy theories like Russiagate for years with no impunity, and Julian Assange sits in jail, that goes to show you that telling the truth puts a mark on your back. And we need to fight against that. We need to continue speaking out for free speech. Free speech is a human issue. It is a nonpartisan issue. I don't care where you stand ideologically. If you are for free speech, you should be there. I support you if you are for free speech. And that's what we have to move towards to. I don't care what people think about that. This is where we're at right now. We have to protect independent media. We have to protect independent journalists. We have to protect the truth, because if war can be started on lies, peace can be achieved with the truth. And thank you, Julian Assange.
Look at that. Yeah, and listen, ladies and gentlemen, I also want to thank everybody who went over to Rokfin today and signed up. Somebody asked me, how can they support the show? We always tell them there's PayPal, there's Patreon. But if you want to subscribe to Rokfin, that also helps out the Convo Couch as well. We're trying to get that number up. We're just a little bit under 200. So go over to Rokfin, ROKFIN, for $9.99 a month. You get all our premium content and everybody's premium content across the board for that one low price, and it really does help us out. And you can also join in the monetary gains. We always say we're not finance experts over here, but that's something you can do. We always talk about crypto a lot, Bitcoin, Ethereum, that whole 9 yards. It's like a co-op creator content platform of sorts, where they treat the content creators with respect. They don't censor their voice like they do the Last American Vagabond. His show's over there on Rokfin as well. He'll be joining us tomorrow. So that is all for Pasta Jardula,
Fiorella,
Johnny Sue, and the ones and twos.
Convo out. Free Julian Assange. Free speech.
See you tomorrow, guys.